کنفرانس در پارلمان انگلستان 8 اردیبهشت 1405 28 آوریل 2026 اعدامهای سیاسی و ضرورت حمایت از دولت موقت برای گذار دموکراتیک و لیست گذاری سپاه پاسداران با حضور قانونگذاران از مجلسین عوام و اعیان انگلستان. تأکید مجدد بر خواسته دیرین مقاومت ایران برای تصویب قانون نامگذاری تروریستی سپاه پاسداران ولایت فقیه در تمامیت آن. رزم بی‌امان جوانان شورشگر نسل ضد دیکتاتوری و ضد وابستگی با پاسداران و اطلاعاتی ها و مزدوران سرکوبگر. نه شاه نه شیخ، چراغ راهنما و فصل مشترک جبهه مردم ایران و نسل‌های پیاپی در 60 سال اخیر است.
لورد همیلتون، عضو مجلس اعیان انگلستان.
I first joined this organization because I was horrified at the appalling way that the regime in Iran was treating its own people. And when I see these executions, so-called, being carried out, which are nothing, as Alec Carlyle said, short of murder, I think that nothing's really changed. But of course things have changed, and we can't ignore this war, which started by Trump in the United States. It has actually changed things. It hasn't changed things for the better, as I hoped, and indeed he hoped it would. We must continue to fight, to give massive support in the West to the Iranian, the National Resistance Council, and eventually this will change in your favor, and we will see democracy in Iran. So it gives me great pleasure to say that we do support you in every way, but you're going through a very difficult period. Thank you very much, and best of luck.
لورد MP، کارهای رژیم ایران نمودی از ترس است. آنها از جوانانی مثل اینها که اعدام شدند میترسند.
Outside this building for years, literally for years, getting parliamentarians to sign letters to support them, to help. I've always supported them and so on, and I've always chatted to them, but they have stood out there in good weather and in bad to ensure that your cause was maintained, and I think we ought to show our appreciation for them. The other thing I can't understand, and it doesn't simply apply to the Iranian regime, why successive governments have allowed a nest of vipers to operate from the embassy in this city, controlling other groups, directing terrorism against facilities in this country, knowing full well who was doing it. I just don't understand the mentality that allows that to happen. They could easily slim down the people who stay in the embassy to the very bare minimum, but they've allowed people to stay in there who are watching what's going on in this country. They're taking notes, they're following individuals who may be supportive of the cause here, and yet we allow it to continue. I do not understand that. What they're doing is an expression of fear. They're afraid of young men like this, and I can only hope and pray that at least our own government will take some steps instead of what was referred to as the silence. And it was deafening and has been for some time. So I do hope that there will be a renewed focus, despite all that's going on in the world, despite all our economic issues, despite all our political issues. People are dying as we're sitting in this room. And I do hope and pray that our own government at least will grasp a few of these threads that are fairly straightforward. We can send a message to the regime. We can expel a large number of their diplomats. I hope we will secure the banning of the IGC. It sends a message. It tells those elements that we as a country are not prepared to tolerate them. We're not prepared to treat them as if they're on an equal basis to the rest of us. And if we can achieve at least that in the next few months, Madam Chair, it will be progress. Thank you.
سامی ویلسون: پس از سقوط رژیم دو انتخاب وجود دارد، یا بازگشت به رژیمی که در رأس آن کسی قرار دارد که نماینده دیکتاتوری گذشته و آماده همکاری با عناصر بیرحم رژیم فعلی است که نتیجه آن یک دیکتاتوری دیگر خواهد بود. من معتقدم طرح 10 ماده‌ای راه رسیدن به آینده دموکراتیک برای ایران است.
I'm just looking at the picture in front of me here. A week ago, this young man was alive. Today, he is dead because he stood up for what he believed and he stood up for freedom. And I think, that's the thing that moves me in all of this, that the number of people who have been prepared, young people, with all their lives ahead of them, to sacrifice their lives because they are not and were not prepared to allow a regime which brutalised its people, spread mayhem across the Middle East and beyond, and sponsored terrorism in other countries. They were prepared to stand up against it. And to me, it's very moving that there's that kind of commitment. I think, of some of the things which happen here and the lack of commitment which there is in our own country for important causes. And yet young men and women have been prepared to allow themselves to sacrifice. And as has been said earlier, it is not a sign of strength, it's a sign of weakness that the current regime in Iran cannot bear any criticism because it knows that it's a fragile regime. It is easily shattered, and any opposition is likely to lead to its eventual fall. And I believe that it will lead to that. Even in times of conflict, it seems that the main purpose of the regime has been to crush internal dissent. I'm going to go on. I just want to say two things. First of all, I believe that the United Kingdom government can do far, far more. And we have talked about the prescription of the IRGC, something which I can't understand, given the terrorism which they have sponsored in our own country, let alone the problems elsewhere, why it is not a prescribed regime. And secondly, looking to the future. And I think that you're right in highlighting that there are two choices once the regime falls. Either you return to a regime which is headed by someone who represents the dictatorship of the past, who is prepared to cooperate with the brutal elements of the regime today. And I think it's significant that the Shah is reaching out to the people who have brutalised his own country. And I think it's an indication that he needs those kind of people, because you wouldn't be getting a free, fair government. You'd be getting a dictatorship. In my view, if we're going to have true peace in Iran, and that requires democratic change, and it also has to be led by the Iranian people themselves. We have discussed the 10-point plan at other meetings. I believe that that is the way of having a democratic future for a wonderful country. Thank you.
جاسلین اسکات: درک درست از واقعیت موجود در ایران از طریق به رسمیت شناختن دولت موقتی صورت می‌گیرد که توسط شورای ملی مقاومت ایران تحت هدایت خانم رجوی اعلام شده است.
Thank you very much, Chair. January this year, 2026, another uprising and protests in Iran. Those protesters were denied the right to do so by the Iranian regime, and yet what did the world do? The protest was about the denial of economic security, of safety, of democracy. Yet what did the world do? The Iranian people fear now another massacre. And yet, is it not true that this young man, Amir Ali Mirajafari, his death is a massacre in itself? Every cell in his body is damaged, disappeared. Every hope that he had, every wish, every dream, every love, every spirit, all his humanity is gone. That is a massacre in itself. And every single one of those around this table whose lives we honoured, every single one of them, a murder, an execution, a damage, a destruction, a massacre in itself. This will not end so long as world governments simply stand by. Were ambassadors expelled? Were embassies shut down? No. Were there references made to the International Criminal Court? Not a one. What our government needs to do is to gain some insight and into what the reality is for Iran and every single Iranian person, whether in Iran or the diaspora. And this must come through the recognition of the provisional government established by the National Council of Resistance of Iran under Madam Rajavi. It is this that will bring free and fair elections. It is this that will bring full equality between women and men and the active participation of women in the political reality. It is this that will bring the separation of religion and state for Iran, and it is that which will bring about the recognition of the rights of oppressed ethnic and national groups. It is that will also ensure a non-nuclear Iran and peaceful coexistence with all nations. I say to the United Kingdom government, stand up, speak up for the massacre that is in reality this man's life. He had a right to live. The right to live was denied. And every single person who loved him in Iran, every single person who may have loved him in the future, is denied that right because of the execution on the 21st of April 2026 of Amir Ali Mirajafari and every other one of those who have been executed. I say to our government, stand up, speak out, and use the international organisations that exist to deal with these issues, the International Criminal Court. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I will just pick out a few points, but I'm enthusiastically supporting and adding my humble voice to all of those voices who have praised the NCRI and Madame Rajavi and the route that Iran will get into freedom. I do think the UK government have been silent for far too long, And I see the beginnings of the end to that silence, but that silence has been so easily interpreted, and particularly by the Iranian government, as agreement. And silence is just not good enough in that situation. The increase in murders, executions in Iran is abhorrent. The mullahs have a solution to every problem, and that is execute more of their own people. They have no credibility, no respect. This is not a government worthy of any respect whatsoever. And I think that particularly there, we should look to one brief comment about the son of the Shah. In my view, and all I hear is that he has no support within Iran, and I hear that he's asked the US and Israel to finish the job. Now, anybody who thinks that bombing is going to help Iran and who thinks that more bombing will help Iran, I think they are also somebody not worthy of respect. And I think it's a solid proof that he does not have a credible network or a grassroots support inside the country. So I hope and believe that we are making progress towards the freedom of the people of Iran, and let's hope that 2026 is that year where we see that in reality. Thank you.
Many valuable points have already been made here today. I would like to address three common misconceptions, however, that often shape discussions about Iran's future. The first is the belief that the regime will ultimately act in the interest of the Iranian people. As someone who spent time with my mother in prison as a child, I can tell you unequivocally that the regime, the mullah regime, does not care for the lives of its people. It has never cared about the lives of its people. And if it did, it would not torture and execute, as we have seen of all these people that we have their pictures surrounding us. Instead, political executions are on the rise following a year of record use of death penalties. Bodies are kept from victims' families, as Madam Rajavi was saying, and it is there to silence them. A generation is being imprisoned and killed as the regime seeks to crush dissidents. This suffering is not incidental, it is deliberate, and it is a strategy that has been taken on by this mullah regime. The second misconception is that Iranians seek a return to monarchy rules. While a small minority may, caught in nostalgia, a majority reject any return of the authoritarian Shah. Iran's past under monarchy was marked by massive inequalities, oppression and suppressions, and one-party rule, which was enforced by a ruthless security police called Savak. The third misconception is that the Iranian people are not ready for democracy. Comparisons are often made to Iraq, Syria, and Libya. The narrative is flawed. In the first two cases, instability was exacerbated by the regime's own destabilizing interventions. Iran, by contrast, has an organized resistance in NCRI, as we have heard very much today. It's a democratic platform designed to avoid such outcomes. The Iranian diaspora's success across Europe and North America further demonstrate what Iranians can actually achieve given the opportunity for freedom. Today, millions of Iranians continue to strive for that same opportunity and freedom. They do not accept foreign actors' hand, and they want to determine their futures for themselves. The United Kingdom must recognize this reality and engage more actively when NCRI and its provisional government, because it represents the Iranians' true democratic aspirations and provides them with the framework to organize their opposition into an organized resistance for change. The Iranian people want freedom. We really do. We have been striving for freedom for years and years, and we deserve it. Our people deserve that, and they will achieve it. As Madam Rajavi has said on many occasions, we can and we must. So thank you for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and a very warm welcome to all of you. Allow me to say, as a British Iranian woman, on behalf of all of the Iranians here assembled, how delighted, absolutely delighted we were to hear that the new anti-terror powers will be introduced to enable, finally, the long overdue prescription of the IRGC, and we understand this will be introduced in the next session. Here, I would like to draw attention to the very tireless endeavours and perseverance of the members of this committee, and on behalf of all of the Iranians here assembled, and I'm sure the people inside of Iran, to thank you most sincerely for all that you have done in order to bring about this prescription. And this has been, I should point out, for some near 2 decades. I know that the NCRI and others have been calling for prescription for a long time, but it's important to point out that it's been nearly 2 decades that this committee has been shining a light on this. And I would also like to include and remember all of the members of the committee, such as Lord Corbett of Castle Vale, the late Sir David Amis, the late Lord Waddington, and a great many other friends who are not here to see the day that is coming, but we are enormously grateful to members past and, of course, present. That it's absolutely repugnant that individuals who really have only just, shall I say, come onto the political scene and have, dare I say, been asleep for the near 5 decades that the Iranian regime has carried out such savage and barbaric attacks on the Iranian people, where people have been hung from cranes and filled the gallows, are now trying to take credit for the work of this committee and the perseverance of others. We Iranians call them the great pretenders. You will know who I am referring to, of course, but I would like to champion the real champions, and that is all of those who have campaigned tirelessly for IRG prescriptions. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll try to keep it brief, obviously. It's immensely an honor to be in the presence of so many great people, and I think if the prescription of the IRGC, which is, as everyone has said, is well overdue, if it does happen, is the direct result of so many good people, so many good human beings who have been part of this journey with the Iranian people. Everyone has mentioned, I think, all the other points that I was going to say, but, you know, it was great to hear from Mrs. Maryam Rajavi, as always, a charismatic leader who, you know, she's not just leading by example, she's really paid this, you know, with her own personal sacrifices. She's so inspirational to someone like myself. So, you know, again, it's great to hear from her, and I truly believe that her 10-point plan is the blueprint for a free and democratic Iran, one that we've been struggling for, fighting for so many years. And as you can see from the pictures around, you know, the room, and this is just, you know, recently, of course, this goes back to 47 years and beyond, that people, Iranian people, have been paying the ultimate price for true democracy. We don't want to replace a dictator with another dictator and to centralize power in one person, one individual who's just going to repeat this cycle for, you know, more people to get killed. You know, so just to reiterate again and close this off, I guess, end the appeasement, stand with the Iranian people, recognize the organized resistance, because this is truly the only way. There is no other way. If it was an easy way, if it was a way to pay less price for a free Iran, we surely would have done it, we would have got there. But there isn't, unfortunately. So, yeah, that's it, really. So thank you all so much for being here.